Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about the split and the dual modes and how to use them. So first, let's start off with what they are. The split mode splits the keyboard into two parts. You have kind of the upper part and the lower part. And the dual mode combines two patches and puts them all over the keyboard. So you can access these by hitting the split or the dual button. So if we hit the split button, we now have split the keyboard essentially into two parts. So on the top, as you can see from the screen, we have a piano. And on the bottom, we have a bass. So that is the split mode. The dual mode, which if you press the dual button, will switch it, and now you're playing both the bass and the piano at the same time, and they're over the entire keyboard. So you can take a listen, you can hear the bass is kind of in the background. So those are the split and dual modes. Now, if you want to change the sounds, what you can do is you click these arrows and you can scroll down and you can select the sounds like you would any other sound. So say we want to change the bass to something more normal. So let's click string and you just click orchestra and it'll change it to strings. And now we have strings layered up with our piano. Now, these strings are pretty loud and the piano is pretty quiet. So if we want to adjust the volume of either the top sound or the bottom sound in split or any of the two sounds in dual, we can use the sliders. And the sliders are always automatically mapped to the two sounds in split and dual mode. So the upper sound is always the upper sound in split or number 1 in dual. So if we turn lower all the way down, that's going to be the strings, which means we should just have the piano. And we can turn the piano all the way down and the upper all the way up, and we should just have strings. And now we can create kind of a nice mix live on the fly of the two sounds. And all these work the same in the split mode. So if you go over to the split mode, you can see the strings are on the left side and the piano's on the right side. And you can obviously adjust the volume of the strings live. Now, there are a lot of presets in the Juno of split and dual patches. And if you want to access these, you just go with the arrow up as you would normally select different sounds, and then you just scroll over. And you can see the second one is exactly what we created. It's a piano and some strings. And there's lots of different ones. This one's an orchestra. And here's some organs. And there's all kinds of sounds. Now, what you may notice is that as we scroll through these patches, the dual light is coming on and off. And on a lot of these patches, the dual light is actually just staying off. So it's neither dual or a split mode, but it's in the presets saved. Now, why is this? Well, that's because you can actually save dual and split modes with more than two sounds and combine dual and split modes to make one giant sound. And you can actually layer up to 16 sounds. So we're going to take this whale pad as an example, and you can tell how many sounds there are by if you go through and actually select the different sounds. So in the dual and split modes, the phrase pads actually represent different sounds, and they're going to be up to 16, but the phrase pads represent the first 8. So you can see here sound 1, it's flange dream, sound 2 is slow saw strings, sound 3 is phantomist pad, and 4 is the same. And then 5 is just a piano, and piano is preset, but these are all off, because you'll notice when you play the patch, there is no piano. So how do you create these sounds that have more than two sounds layered up? Well, it's pretty simple, and we're going to explore flange dream as our example. So what you're going to do is you're going to press menu, and then you're going to press edit, so press enter, and then you're going to select performance edit. And this is where you layer more than 2 sounds. So again, before we were looking at just layering 2 sounds, now you're layering more than 2 sounds. And as you can see in this preset, there are 4 sounds, and on the key bed, they're all on, but you can layer up to 16 sounds. And right now, none of them are filled in and they're all off. So let's say we want to add some strings. Well, how would you do that? You'd scroll down to an empty slot. So we'll choose slot number 5 and you'll just press strings. And now you have some strings. But you'll notice they're super loud and overpowering. So we're going to turn them on in the key bed. And we're going to scroll over and we're going to go over to the level and we're just going to turn them down. And so this is kind of the mix, like the sliders were earlier. This is the mix section for all the different sounds. So now we've turned it down. And maybe we want to turn it back up. And there we go. Now here you can also adjust the panning and whether it's soloed or not. Now, this is really helpful for layering up a bunch of sounds. But the other helpful page in this menu, there's a lot of pages with kind of some unneeded information. Here you can add reverb and chorus. And here you can adjust the pitch, and you can obviously adjust the octave and the chorus tune. Here is, in my opinion, one of the coolest features of layering multiple sounds. Now here is like the split area of the menu. So what you can do is you have G9 right now, and that is the highest note on this keyboard. And what you can do is you can actually bring, and we're going to use strings as the example, you can bring G9 down, and G9 is the highest note that you can play with strings. So if we scroll down, we'll go to C4, and that is middle C. You will see that when you play C, the strings play, but when you play D, the strings, as you can see by the little kind of white dots, are not playing. And anything above C, the strings are not going to play because they're only on this part of the keyboard. So this is essentially a split that you're creating. And you can do this coming up as well. So now everything above A1 and below C4, the strings are going to play, but nowhere else. This is really cool because you can do all kinds of kind of mini splits and duals throughout the entire keyboard. Now, this V sensitivity controls the sensitivity that you have to press the key in order to get it to play. Now, if we increase the sensitivity, what will happen is that when you play softly, you'll notice that the strings don't play, but if you play hard, the strings really play. And we can increase it, and you'll notice they play when I press hard, but they don't play when I press soft. And that's because this will only trigger these strings if I'm above a certain velocity. So that's a really cool feature. Again, if say you have some brass or some kind of louder sounds, sometimes some timpani, and only when you really slam on the key do you want it banging, but you want to have some nice strings or horns there, and that's a good way to kind of incorporate it into your patches. Now, once you've created your patch and you're happy and you've layered up a bunch of sounds, you want to save this patch. And how you do that is you press the right button, and it's the exact same as the rhythm pattern. If you want to go watch my tutorial for that, you click right, you click patch performance right, and then you just type in your name, and then you can select a user patch. And then you just click enter to save, and that is how you save it. Now, I'm not going to save this one. I'm going to exit out. And so we have this flange dream, and now we're going to exit patch perform completely, and we're going to go look at how to get to your sound that you just saved. Now, before, what we were doing is we were pressing split, and then we were scrolling through presets, but there's a lot easier way to do it, and all you do is simply click patch perform, then you scroll over and change it to user, and you will save it in a user slot, and your user slot should be right there. And you can also scroll over and see all the presets as well. And so that's how you save your huge layered sounds. The last thing I want to touch on this kind of tutorial is the super layer. Now, the super layer is more of an effect, in my opinion, than a dual or split mode, but it does some really neat things to the sound. And you can see right here we have a piano. And it's very full and it's very rich. But say we want it a little bit out of tune. Well, we can press super layer, and I'm going to turn up the number of pianos layered. That's what the layer means, up to 5, which is the maximum. The minimum is 2, so turn it up to 5. And then I'm going to scroll over and turn the detune. But first, let's listen to it when there's just 5 pianos, but they're not detuned. It's very thin and not very nice sounding, but let's turn the detune all the way to 30, and this is the maximum, and you can hear it's going to sound almost like a honky-tonk piano. And you can even use pitch bend on it a little bit. It sounds very out of tune, so we're going to bring back the detune and maybe set it around 13. And you get kind of a neat effect. And this can be done, it sounds really good on synthesizer sounds, and just making sounds full. It does a really great job. And so that's the super layer, and I think it's kind of a forgotten feature of the Juno DS, but it's kind of neat to play around. So that's this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. If you have anything else you want me to make a tutorial on, or kind of dive in depth into on the Juno DS, please leave a comment. I have a ton of other videos on the Juno DS, so if you want to go see those, I have a couple other tutorials, and I'm going to obviously make more. Go check out that playlist. It should be somewhere on your screen. And thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I will see you again soon.